I'm going to talk about matplotlib.pyplot, right? And matplotlib.pyplot is basically, I think it's included in Python, but it basically allows you to make charts or graphs. So let's say you have, I don't know, two sets of values. Like one set is maybe different dates, and the other set is the value of some kind of item for each of those dates, and you want to plot those values against those dates. Well, you can do so with matplotlib.pyplot. You can also make bar charts and pie charts and do all kinds of cool things. I'll show you what I mean by chart. So I looked for the word chart on Google Images, and this is what it came up with. We can make this in matplotlib.pyplot. We could make this. We can make this. I think we can probably make this with the lowest and highest there. We can definitely make this, and we're actually going to make something similar to this in this video, not exactly the same. And we can also make, you see here how there's multiple plots kind of all on the same place here? We can do that as well. And we'll get into all these more complicated things later on. But this basic chart here that we want to make has its x values, so the horizontal values, and its y values, the vertical values. And the y values are plotted here against the x values. That's it. Just two sets of values, and you just plot it onto here, right? So you're probably wondering, cool, that's great. Like these charts, I'd love to make them. So how do I make them? Right. So here we have to import matplotlib.pyplot. Oops, not typing anything. Don't know what happened there. Matplotlib.pyplot as PLT. Forgot the import there. So we want to import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT. So now in order to use it, we use PLT dot function. Okay. So in this example, we're actually going to use dot plot, right? And dot plot is pretty simple. What you do is you put two arguments. The basics. You can see here there's more arguments, right? There's scale x, scale y. I'm not going to get into that right now. And the two arguments are x and y, and they're both arrays. So just to refresh, x is this horizontal line, y is this line. So we have x as the first argument, and you can see here we've got dates. In this array, we're going to put days, and these will be our first arguments, and they'll be put down as lists. So we're going to put Wednesday. No, sorry. I'm going to put Monday as the first argument, Tuesday, or as the first item, should I say, in this array, and Wednesday, right? And here we're going to put some values. So we're going to say that something was worth an amount in dollars. We'll say it was worth 1.21 the first day. The second day it was worth 1.50. Wow, really went up there. And then it half crashed back down to 1.30 there. Now usually, after using PLT plot, we actually want to put plt.show, right? Now, plt.plot, if we just run this bit here, this should actually work on its own. I'm not sure why it's coming up with a syntax error, pyflexy. No idea what that's about. Just see what happens here. It's worked, so this is just lying to me here, essentially. And yeah, you can see that we've got our Monday value, which is 1.21. See that just above that 1.20 where it starts. This Tuesday value of 1.50 right at the top where the 1.50 is. And this Wednesday value of 1.30, you can see it's more or less on this line here, right? So we plotted these three y values here on the y scale against the x values on the x scale, right? And if you noticed, I just used these two bits and hit F9. However, we really want to use show, and I'll show you why we want to use show a bit later on, right? So the first thing is we use our x and y array, as you've seen. That's really annoying me. I don't know what's happening, but I'm just going to forget about it. But we can also just use regular arrays. We don't actually have to make these arrays up as we go along. So let's say we've got two arrays. We've got x and we've got y as an array. Not very inventive, you know, for x and y coordinates, but it doesn't really matter. And we're just going to say, oh, let's be super inventive, Thursday Friday, and Saturday. Either way, you can see that I'm using strings in these X arrays. Don't have to be strings. Can be value, can be integers and other things. I'm not sure if it can be booleans. Probably can be, but it's not limited to strings. I'm just using strings, right? Now, here for the Y values, we'll say that it's a different product. So I don't know. We'll say that it's I don't know what, but this product, this thing, whatever it is, costs 4.50 on the first day. Then it goes up to 5.98, and then it goes back down to 4.35 for whatever reason, right? And we can actually plot that with plt.plot, and we plot the x and the y, and we put the y against the x, and plt.show. Okay, and if I just run this little bit here, you'll see that graph. And you can see that's worked. So we don't have to just put in, you know, these as the arguments. We can actually just use already formulated arrays, essentially, right? Which will save you a lot of time if you've got two arrays that are both, I don't know, 10,000 values long, as in they've got 10,000 values inside of them. Don't want to type all that out manually, probably. Now, just something to note here. When you are using these arrays, they have to be arrays of the same size. I'll show you what happens when you use arrays of the wrong size, of two different sizes. So we'll start by saying this is 2 and 1 for the x values, and the y values are 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then we'll do plt.show, and you're going to get a really weird error when you get this, right? It says list indices must be integers or slices, not tuples. What? Oh, right, yeah. Forgot the comma. That wasn't what we were looking for. This is what we're looking for. So I didn't separate those two arrays with a comma, just to reiterate that. So here, because this array has only got 2 items in it and this one's got 5, it's saying that x and y must have the same first dimension, but have shapes 2 and 5. So it's saying that x and y basically need to be the same size as arrays. We'll get into that more later on, maybe. Okay, so make sure your arrays, when you're just making these basic sort of plots, are all the same length, right? Otherwise, you're going to get these really weird. Well, you just going to get errors. It's not weird, it's just an error because it's the wrong shape, right? Now, let's go back onto show and why we want to use show with our plots. Because, can you guess what show does, right? Well, show shows all of the plots that we've made so far, and it puts them all on the same graph, right? So let's say, for example, I just run this plt.plot to whatever this. No, I'll use this one. I'll just run this one, right? Now, we get the array, sure. We get the graph, sure, which is great. That's really cool. We've got our graph. But when we use show, it basically puts every single plot that we've used. So let's say we put this here. In fact, that's what we'll do. We'll copy this, right? We'll paste it, and then we'll copy this and paste it underneath it, right? And you'll see what happens when we use 2 plots before and then we use the show, okay? So if we use these 2 plots here and then we use show, what do you think is going to happen? I'll show you what happens. I'll show you, hint, hint. We actually get both of these graphs planned out as we want, both of these plot lines, should I say, as we wanted them, but they're planned out onto the same graph, okay? Now, I'll explain why that is. Essentially, whenever you use show, what it says is, hi, my name's show. I'm going to take all the plots above me that are below another instance of show, and I'm going to put them all into the same graph. So here, if I were to run all of this, we'll just get 2 graphs, right? Oh, no we won't, because that's an error. Oh, I've got to copy and paste even more now. Right. Copy and paste that. Paste this underneath it. Right, so if I run all of this together, we just get 2 different plots. The first one we get is this one, where we've put two different graphs, sorry, where I've put two plot lines on one graph. And the second one as well, we've just put one plot line on one graph. And you can actually see the difference, the radical difference here, right? You can see the difference, yeah. And basically what's happened here is this show line has said, right, take all the plots above it that are before any shows in the code and put them onto a graph, right? And then this show here has done the exact same thing, right? We run this first and we ignore all of this above because, you know, I only executed these bits, these lines, right? And then we say, okay, that show's been done. Now let's read the next bunch of lines. And then Python says, okay, or PyPlot should I say, says, okay, plot this. And then this show says, okay, show this plot. What is there any other plot above it? Looks at that line and says nothing. Looks at this line and says, ah, there's a show there. So we're just having this one. We're just going to use this plot below the show because we can't use these because they were in a previous .show function, right? So .show is used to show all the plots, and the plots actually are all plotted onto the same graph until a show comes to stop them from being plotted into more graphs, right? No, that's a bit confusing, but just the way it is. Basically, however many lines you want to put onto the same graph, put them and then put a show. Anything below that is separate to that graph. A lot more easy to manage, but I thought I'd give you a large explanation so you could kind of get a bit more depth of it. Right, that's pretty much it for the basics. I mean, there's a lot more to go over. You're probably thinking things like, there's no title. What are these? Are they days or what? What's it relevant to? What's this? Value in dollars and what item is it? Yeah. We'll go into that later. Those are labels and titles and stuff. You can pretty much consider this finished now. I'm just going to go into some experimental stuff. So thanks for watching. Right, so here's the experimental stuff. Let's say, for example, I don't know, let's guess what will happen if I use plt.plot on, I don't know, let's say 1, 1, right? So we've got the same x values, and we've got two different y values here, right? And we'll say plt.show. Have a little guess what that's going to create. Don't worry, I'll show it to you now, right? It makes just this horizontal line, right? And the reason it makes a horizontal line is because you're saying the two x's are at the same position. So they're both 1. So everything's plotted against 1. And then we plot 2 against 1, which is here. We plot 7 against 1, which is here. So it just connects these two lines in a horizontal way and says, right, that's 2 and 7. Pretty simple. Now, I'm going to show you another little cool thing. plt.plot. And we're going to say that we've got 1 and 5. Well, we'll just say 1 and 2. It doesn't really matter. But we're going to have these at the same values, right? Why don't you guess what that's going to print out? You can probably guess quite easily. It's pretty obvious. Right, I'll print it out. So the same things happen, except it's happened in a horizontal way because we're saying that this whole thing is 8 and 8, which is the same value, right? But it's plotted at 1 and 2. So it plots from 1 all the way to 2, right? In a horizontal manner. That's pretty much it. Alright, well, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Nothing much more on this subject.